All right, what's up? Going to be talking about Puffy Frostbite today, comparing the two, seeing which one is better overall. So to start, both Puffy and Frostbite have pretty much identical damage, capping out at level 500. And yeah, I assume it's going to be the same damage at the other levels too. All their sort of flat stats are the same. Their range, their AOE effect, the pattern of their ability being a beam, as well as their upgrade costs. Right, they're both cheap units. That also have access to Power Stone upgrades. But with that out of the way, where the difference really comes in is with the ability effect, the element, and the evolutions, right? So, if you don't know already, Frostbite does have access to evolve into Glacial Darkwing, while at the moment, Puffy does not have any evolution. And so Frostbite's also, of course, Ice unit, Puffy's going to be an electric unit. And then, yeah, I think those are the two rather minor differences in between them. The major difference is the effect of their ability, right? So, I don't think it can be really seen here because everything is getting one shot. But Puffy's ability provides a damage multiplier of 500%, whereas Frostbite's ability provides a freeze, right? It still does damage. It doesn't do as much damage as Puffy's laser beam though, because I believe it lacks that damage multiplier. And so yeah, this really is important because when you think about these three differences, you want to think about number one, Puffy's electric while Frostbite is going to be ice, right? That means Puffy can be in the end game, the element's going to matter, right? So Puffy, I guess you could say, would be most fit for IQT, whereas Frostbite would be most fit for Volcano Goddess, right? And so with that being said, Frostbite is also able to have more use there because he can evolve into Glacial Darkwing, right? And then it'll be doing more damage than Puffy anyways, even without that damage multiplier on the ability. So it'll be doing more damage and you'll be providing a freeze, right? Especially with that element attached to him. And so yeah, again, although the element isn't too significant, it just means that Frostbite does have a use outside of pure damage. Gonna have a use at maybe as an 8th or a 9th unit in Volcano Goddess, assuming that you do have him evolved, right? And so Puffy is not really going to be used in IQT because there are better carries, right? Puffy's only purpose is pure damage, no access to an evolution yet, and so for that purpose of pure damage, there are better units out there. You can use a Kevin, which does all three types of elemental damage. You could use something like a Zeus, even something like a Yellow Archangel. They could all be better than Puffy for IQT. And then, with that sort of late game ideas out of the way, you also want to think about, what value do they bring in the early game, right? What value do they have when you are clearing pre-JR normal? And so in that case, again, very, very similar stats, very similar abilities. However, I think Puffy can be a little bit better, especially for that active playstyle that's more using the early game, right? That playstyle of actually using ice on bosses, something such as the Rage Fist Shaman, which I'll bring up right over here, that is able to give enemies invulnerability. It's pretty common that you do use a deep freeze on him just so you can clear him, right? And so in that case, Puffy can be a little bit better because he can be at a little bit lower level and his beam will allow him to reach bosses in the back and one-shot them. Whereas, Frostbite might not have as much damage on his beam, might not be able to do that. It'll freeze the boss, but it won't kill the boss, which can allow the boss to cast once, right? The difference is very, very, very minor, though, in the early game. You'll be using them for so few levels that it really won't make much of a difference that is really noticeable. And so, yeah, and then after that part of the early game, you have access to better damage dealers. So you have access to stuff like Slime King, you have access to stuff like Mythics. And in that case, once again, Puffy falls off because there are better damage dealers, but Frostbite still provides a stun, so still has some sort of use. So I think overall, Frostbite is going to be the better unit. He's just a bit more well-rounded. Puffy serves one purpose as damage, one purpose only, in which, he's beaten out by other units pretty early on. Frostbite serves, two purposes. He can be a sort of like secondary or third damage dealer. He also provides a stun as well. Just a bit more well-rounded overall, just going to be a bit better of a unit. So yeah, I think overall, Frostbite is the better dragon out of the two. But it really doesn't matter which one you use to carry in the early game, and then you probably won't be utilizing them too much anyways in the late to end game. As I've said, Frostbite can be an 8th or a 9th unit. 8th or a 9th unit doesn't necessarily mean, he'll be a very high priority unit. He's kind of just a unit to put in if you don't have anything better to put in. But yeah, that's going to be it for this video. Like, subscribe, and see ya.